I'm one of the lucky ones. I made a little bit of money. I don't have 50 million to bet with you, but I do have 3 million to bet with you. So this is your offer. $3 million. You put 3, I put 3. Winner takes all. I'm 5 years out the ring. I'm a kickboxer.
Joe Rogan just dropped the bombshell on why Jake Paul, the so-called boxing prodigy, turned down Andrew Tate's big fight offer. And get this, he didn't just reject the fight, he straight up kicked the $3 million to the curb. Yeah, you heard that right. So what's the deal here? Is Jake terrified of losing? Or does he only box when the odds are conveniently stacked in his favor? Seems like the only thing scripted here is his so-called career.
If you want to fight and you want to send a contract, send one to me. I will take a few weeks break from living my retired life to kick the living out of a goofy, entitled dickhead like you. You know my name, Andrew Tate. Google it if you want to know more. Any day, any time.
But don't worry, I'm going to break down all the reasons behind Jake's rejection, the savage callouts from Andrew Tate, and how Joe Rogan tore into Jake's play-it-safe strategy. Buckle up, because this story is packed with drama, ego, and some hilarious truths you won't want to miss.
As a boxer?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And listen, what Jake Paul has accomplished is he's fighting old guys.
Yes.
He's fighting, all he fights are old guys and whatever. But listen, say what you want, he wins. And he makes money. So he's doing his thing, you know?
Work. Go. Work. Come on, Marcus. Keep going. Work. Come on, fight. Make it. Hey. 50 seconds. Come on, 20 seconds to walk, Steve. Let's go. Come on, work. Work. 10 seconds. Work.
Because Jake Paul is the man who claims to take on all challengers conveniently, and now he ducks out the moment a real test shows up. And who better to expose him than Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate? If there's a handbook on how to dodge legitimate competition while screaming about being the best, Jake Paul probably wrote it.
Yeah, he'll never do that, though. He knows. He knows way.
One, he's under contract. And two,
he's not his own boss.
And two, he won't do it. He knows better. He might
and it's funny to say, like, yo, Conor McGregor is scared of Jake Paul and will never box him.
When Andrew Tate, former kickboxing champion and professional button pusher, called out Jake, the internet erupted. Tate wasn't playing games. He openly challenged Jake to a fight with a $3 million bet and an anytime, anywhere ultimatum. But instead of lacing up his gloves and stepping into the ring, Jake hesitated. Not the kind of hesitation that builds suspense. It was the awkward kind that makes you wonder if he's frantically texting his PR team for an excuse.
You've got left somebody like me. He'd mentioned me before, and there'll be people out there saying, oh, Carl Froch's talking about himself. He's after a payday. Listen, I'm not after a payday. I'm doing all right. There's no problems with my finance.
And then came Jake's brilliant pivot, fighting Mike Tyson. Yes, the 57-year-old retired legend who hasn't been in his prime since VHS tapes were still a thing. Jake, in his infinite wisdom, decided that boxing Tyson would be a better move than facing someone like Andrew Tate, who is not only in fighting shape but also unpredictably dangerous. It was a calculated move, sure, but it screamed one thing louder than anything else: fear. And we all know the fight was scripted, and he can't do a fight scripted with Andrew Tate.
So when you see some of these crossover fights, obviously I know that you and Jake Paul have had your disagreements. Do you think that Jake's gotten better as a boxer?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And listen, what Jake Paul has accomplished is he's fighting old guys.
Yes.
He's fighting, all he fights are old guys and whatever. But listen, say what you want, he wins. And he makes money. So he's doing his thing, you know?
Let's not act like this is the first time Jake Paul has avoided a fight he couldn't control. His entire boxing career has been a masterclass in cherry-picking opponents. Former basketball players? Check. Retired MMA fighters who haven't boxed a day in their lives? Double check. And now, Tyson, a retired heavyweight with enough fame to sell tickets but not enough speed to pose a real threat. It's a pattern so obvious that even Jake's most loyal fans are starting to notice. Joe Rogan didn't hesitate to call Jake out on his podcast, pointing out that Jake's strategy revolves around avoiding anyone who might actually beat him. He's fighting old undersized guys, Rogan said, summing up what everyone else was already thinking. Jake Paul doesn't want to fight Andrew Tate because Tate is younger, faster, and far more unpredictable than any opponent Jake has faced. Rogan even went a step further, saying that Jake's reluctance to face Tate shows he's more interested in preserving his record than proving himself as a legitimate fighter.
Two brothers, one cage. Jake Logan, you Tristan. Who comes out alive?
You know what? I'm trying so hard to not start internet beefs. I'm really trying not to.
You could say Jake and Logan, man.
Bro,
Don't worry about it.
No, I can't lie. Bro, I'm going through life. I'm trying to live peaceful now. I've got Fed agents in my house. Matrix is after me. I'm just trying to live peaceful. But of course, I have absolute faith in myself and my brother, and I know what we've been through, and I know the kind of men we are.
Now let's talk about Andrew Tate for a second. This isn't some washed-up internet personality looking for a quick payday. Tate is a former kickboxing world champion with a chip on his shoulder and a point to prove. He didn't just challenge Jake Paul, he practically dared him to fight. His $3 million bet wasn't just a publicity stunt, it was a statement. Tate knew Jake wouldn't take the fight, and he wanted to make that fact as public as possible. Tate didn't stop at the initial call-out either. When Jake Paul ghosted him, he doubled down, calling Jake out again and pointing out the painfully obvious. Jake's entire career is built on fighting opponents he can script. There's a difference between training and being a fighter, Tate said, throwing one of the most savage truths at Jake's entire existence. Prime fighters destroy hobbyists.
Andrew, fighter, legitimate, badass motherfucker, strong mentality. Sorry, Tristan Tate is the weak link.
I say let's
He got a bad shoulder. He's shaped like a gingerbread man. I don't want no beef, but that's delusion.
PFO will set this up.
A MMA double tag team match.
10 million for everybody.
You might have a fight. You might have a fight on your.
Jake's silence after Tate's second challenge was deafening. For someone who never shuts up when it comes to hyping his fights, Jake suddenly had nothing to say. His fans, who had been hyped about the possibility of a Paul Tate showdown, were left scratching their heads. And if this feels like Jake just got rocked by a verbal 1-2 combo, then slip the jab and smash that subscribe button, because this saga is delivering more hits than Jake ever will in a real fight. Let's break it down. Jake Paul chose to fight Mike Tyson instead of Andrew Tate because Tyson is safer. Yes, Tyson is a boxing icon, but let's not ignore the fact that he's 57 years old and well past his prime. Jake knew he could control the narrative in a Tyson fight. He knew it would sell pay-per-views because of Tyson's name, not because it would be a real challenge. We all know that fight was scripted, and most importantly, he knew it wouldn't put his carefully curated record at risk.
Why don't you lose to an old man who's retired? I live in the real fucking world, Jake. There's a whole bunch of fighters out here who live in the real fucking world. Men who are dangerous and dedicated their lives to this sport and don't have a fucking fraction of the money you have because you managed to become a fucking clown.
Contrast that with Andrew Tate, a fighter in his mid-30s in top physical condition with years of experience in combat sports. Tate is unpredictable, skilled, and absolutely not interested in playing Jake's game. If Jake stepped into the ring with Tate, he wouldn't just risk losing, he'd risk being exposed as the hobbyist Tate accused him of being.
Go fight! Hey, fight! Hey, go fight! Hey, work! Hey, work! Hey, work! Hey, work! Hey, work! Work! Hey, work! Hey, work! Hey, keep going. Come on, work. Go, work. Come on, Marcus, keep going. Work! Come on, fight. Make it. Come on, 20 seconds to walk, Steve. Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Joe Rogan once again didn't hold back when talking about Jake's decision to fight with a Tyson instead of Tate. Jake Paul doesn't want a fight he can't control, Rogan said, cutting through Jake's facade like a hot knife through butter. And he's right, Jake Paul's entire career is about control. Controlling the opponents, controlling the narrative, and controlling the spectacle. Andrew Tate represents the one thing Jake can't control, a real challenge. If Jake thought his fans wouldn't notice his dodge, he was sorely mistaken. Social media lit up with criticism, and the backlash was brutal. Fans called him a coward, a fraud, and worse. Even some of Jake's supporters admitted that his decision to avoid Andrew Tate while fighting Mike Tyson was a bad look. The internet doesn't forget, and this move might just haunt Jake for the rest of his career.
The best boxer on the planet is Jake Paul. Why? I mean, who's doing it? I mean, if Mike Tyson says, let's do this, are you down? 100%.
I'm gonna make Mike my girlfriend.
Would you fight Mike Tyson? Again, no, because he's now old, and it would be an absolutely tragic shame to knock out an old version of his prime self. That doesn't feel fair. Prime Tyson would have ripped me apart in a boxing match, so to beat him when he's past his prime just feels dishonorable, and I'd feel dirty for doing that, so there's no amount of money on the planet that could convince me to fight.
And let's not forget Tate's fans. They were more than happy to join the chorus of criticism, flooding Jake's social media with taunts and reminders of his unwillingness to step into the ring with a real fighter. Tate, of course, took full advantage of the situation, calling Jake out for being scared and reiterating his challenge. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare, and Jake had no response.
I'm known as a fighter in a way that he never will be. I'm known as a fighter in the way that if you throw me in a cell with a murderer, a rapist, and 2 drug dealers, people look at me and go, oh, hey, respect. He would have left with a higher male body count than his fiance. That's how he would have left, Jake.
Joe Rogan's comments added fuel to the fire. Rogan didn't just expose Jake's strategy, he completely dismantled it. He's avoiding young, competitive opponents, Rogan said, and it's hard to argue with that assessment. Every opponent Jake has faced so far has either been out of their prime, out of their weight class, or out of their depth. Fighting Andrew Tate would have been a chance for Jake to silence his critics and prove he's more than just a YouTuber with a decent punch. Instead, he chose the easy way out, and Rogan wasn't about to let him off the hook. Jake Paul's decision to reject Andrew Tate's fight offer has done more than just damage his reputation. It's exposed the core weakness in his entire brand. For years, Jake has built his career on the illusion of being a fearless competitor, but this saga has shattered that image. Fans now see him for what he is, a businessman more interested in selling fights than proving himself as a boxer.
Jake Paul can fight. It's not like Jake Paul can't fight.
Yeah.
Jake Paul just won't fight anybody.
And then there's the looming question. Where does Jake go from here? Does he keep dodging real opponents and risking further backlash? Or does he finally step up and face someone like Andrew Tate? The longer he avoids fighters like Tate, the more his reputation will suffer. Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan have exposed Jake Paul in a way that no opponent ever has. They've revealed the cracks in his armor, and now the whole world is watching. Jake can keep pretending he's the future of boxing, but as long as he keeps avoiding real challenges, that narrative will crumble. His empire of hype and half-truths is on shaky ground, and unless he changes course, it's only a matter of time before it collapses entirely.